All right, this is February 2023. I am making some videos to just share some perspective, my perspective. It's not the perspective, it's just some one person, right? About what's going on in the world today, the who, the what's going on, who's, in charge of everything, where's it going, who's just, how is this happening, all the things, right? Because there's a lot of crazy stuff. People are fighting, because, we turn on each other when we're scared and etc. So I'm going to try to answer some of these questions based on what I've unlearned and learned over the last 3 years, give or take, because I feel like I've been fortunate to have the opportunity to deep dive into some of these things, and then, some of these different industries and whatnot, and just happen to have had the previous exposure enough to have a baseline of understanding for certain things. So where's my perspective coming from, which this objectively shouldn't matter probably, but it does. So I'll share. My perspective is coming from the Pacific Northwest of the United States, born and raised in the Salish territory around the Puget Sound. It's a really gorgeous area, lots of natural beauty, mountains, water, saltwater, freshwater, hop, skip, and a jump to desert, rainforest. It's pretty rad. There's a lot of rural and there's a lot of city. I fall more, or have historically fallen more on the city side, where I lived in Seattle for a short while, which is home to Microsoft, some of the world leaders in the corporate sector, Amazon, Boeing, Starbucks. All right, there's probably more. Bill and Melinda Gates have a mansion here. There's a lot of military here. I'm a military brat myself to a degree, because of our proximity to we're on the West Coast, right? So on the Pacific, and so our neighbors to the west are Asia and Russia. We got, and all this Pacific has all these shipping ports and whatever. So we have a ton of Navy. We've got Air Force around. We've got Army. Just, seeing military uniforms, and, that's a staple of this area. Facebook, well, at least, I don't know what they say now, but said that I was left-leaning. It's like, say, 2019, pre-2020. I was on the Biden train. Like, woo! Biden Harris, obviously. I'm excited about that. I watched the first couple months and I was like, oh my god, I don't even understand what you guys are saying, let alone doing. I am, just being real, pro-vax in general. Really. I am pro-science. and pro math. I didn't, coming up through the public school system, I was not a history or English buff. I was a math and science person. These things, the Q&A, scientific method, and then 2 + 2 = 4, those made sense to me. Those were concrete things I could wrap my head around. English seemed really gray area, and history seemed really contextual. I just, this is where my home was for the most part. Professionally, I have hands-on experience in healthcare, the healthcare sector, and DoD. I've actually worked at a handful of different industries, but these two, for years apiece, are most relevant today, given the old pandemic and federal government happenings. I'm a big fan of TED Talks. Got hours and hours and hours under my belt of TED Talks. Went deep into that for years. The academia space is, one of my comfort zones. I've pretty much been in continued education since I left high school, getting 2 degrees, and just continuing outside of those, because learning is a continued learning is a lifestyle to some, and that I would put myself in that category. Some of my favorite people are Neil deGrasse Tyson, of course. Sam Harris, even today. Even though he leave Twitter, still a fan. He's, this ain't probably a well-known name, but William Glasser, the author, he wrote a book in the day called Stations in the Mind that completely changed my perspective on life. There's like certain things that once you know them, you can't unknow them. It was like he offered that kind of perspective, and I'm a big fan. Graham Hancock is, I don't know how welcomed he is in the scientific community, because he's got a more contrarian view of things, but that's a smart dude, and he's real interesting to listen to on multiple topics. I would put him up there. I like, I know some of these people don't seem to align, but Joe Rogan, I'm a big fan of Joe Rogan. He's anchored in his open perspective, I'll say. Who else we got? I don't know. Michael Pollan. Hopefully I'm spelling these right. Malcolm Gladwell. Just... Okay, so when it comes to religion, and this is where maybe I lose some, maybe not. I'm just one person. This is just me. I didn't grow up in church. That's not me, really. I have questions. One of the main things is, how does this coexist with mushrooms, nature, miracles? I'll say mushrooms, and I'm not gonna say whether or not I've dabbled in all the things, but I imagine, or from what I've read, heard, whatever, that mushrooms, acid, I don't know, maybe LSD might be kind of the same thing, and then salvia. You know, how do these things go together? I just have questions and stories. You know, human history goes way back, way further than these religious texts. So, anyway, this is just me. 2019 me was sitting in the middle, between the red, supposed to be white in here, and blue. You know, politically, I was trying to just lock down in the middle, sitting there in debate land, content. And then in 2020, these split, and that started a process of unlearning and relearning. And what's come from that, what perspective has come from that process, given this history of perspective, is where I'm coming from, and where I'm, the place that I am sharing from.